The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Arya's cafe, casting golden streaks across the polished wooden floors. Steam rose gently from the espresso machine, creating a soft haze that danced in the sunbeams. The cafe had that perfect morning atmosphere, warm, inviting, and filled with the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans. Sarah wiped down the marble counter with practiced movements, her blonde hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She had been working at this small cafe in downtown Seattle for 3 years now, and she knew every regular customer by name and by their usual order. The morning rush was just beginning to wind down, leaving behind a peaceful lull that she always treasured. The bell above the door chimed softly, and Sarah looked up to see a man entering. He was well dressed in a dark business suit, but there was something about the way he carried himself that suggested weariness. His shoulders were slightly slumped, and his eyes held a distant look as he approached the counter. He appeared to be in his early 40s, with dark hair and tired eyes that spoke of too many late nights and early morning flights. "Good morning," Sarah said with her usual warm smile. "What can I get for you today?" The man paused at the counter, his fingers drumming nervously against his laptop bag. He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again, looking frustrated. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a slight accent that Sarah couldn't immediately place. Excuse me," he said, his words careful and measured. "English is not, how do you say, my first language. I need something strong, but also, smooth. For energy, but not harsh." Sarah's expression softened with understanding. She had seen this before: travelers, immigrants, international students struggling to communicate their needs in a second language. It never failed to touch her heart, and she had made it her personal mission to help whenever she could. "Of course," she said gently, switching effortlessly to Spanish. "Prefiero un café fuerte pero suave. Tengo una mezcla especial que podría gustarle." She watched his face carefully for any sign of recognition. The man's eyebrows raised in surprise, but he shook his head apologetically. "No español, lo siento." Sarah didn't miss a beat. She tried French next, her pronunciation careful and clear. "Peut-être un café au lait. Ou un cappuccino avec un shot d'espresso supplémentaire." Again, the man looked grateful but confused. "Non, désolé." By now, other customers in the cafe had begun to notice the exchange. An elderly woman at a corner table lowered her newspaper, watching with curiosity. A young couple sharing a pastry had turned to observe the interaction, smiling at Sarah's patient efforts. Sarah's mind raced through her linguistic repertoire. She had studied languages in college, but more importantly, she had grown up in a multicultural household. Her grandmother had been Italian, her stepfather was German, and she had spent summers working at international hotels where she had picked up phrases in dozens of languages. She tried Italian next, her voice taking on the melodic cadence she had learned from her nonna. "Forse un macchiato. E forte ma anche cremoso." The man's eyes lit up for a moment, and he nodded enthusiastically. "Si, macchiato. Perfetto." His relief was palpable, and Sarah felt a warm surge of satisfaction. But as she began to prepare his drink, the man continued speaking in rapid Italian, and Sarah realized he was explaining something more complex. Her Italian was good for coffee orders and basic conversation, but she could see he was trying to convey something important. She caught fragments, something about a meeting, a presentation, nervousness. The man gestured to his laptop, then to his watch, his expression growing more anxious. Sarah paused in her coffee preparation and tried German, speaking slowly and clearly. "Haben Sie heute ein wichtiges Meeting?" The man's entire demeanor changed. His shoulders relaxed, his face broke into a genuine smile, and he responded in fluent German. Sarah's own German was rusty but functional, and they began to have a real conversation. Through their exchange, Sarah learned that his name was Michael, and he was indeed facing a crucial business meeting in just 2 hours. He had flown in from Munich the night before, was exhausted, jet-lagged, and incredibly nervous about presenting to American investors. He had been awake most of the night, rehearsing his presentation and worrying about cultural differences and language barriers. "I speak English well for business," he explained in German, "but when I'm nervous, I forget words. I make mistakes. Today is very important for my company, for my employees. If this presentation goes wrong..." Sarah listened intently as she crafted his macchiato with extra care. She understood the weight of his situation, the pressure, the fear of miscommunication, the isolation of being far from home during a critical moment. When she handed him the perfectly crafted drink, she also provided something more valuable, encouragement in his native language. She told him about the American business culture, how directness was appreciated, how his accent would be seen as sophisticated rather than problematic. She shared tips about maintaining eye contact, using confident body language, and how Americans often appreciated personal stories that showed vulnerability and authenticity. Michael listened intently, sipping his macchiato and nodding. The caffeine was helping, but more importantly, Sarah's calm presence and multilingual support was restoring his confidence. She even helped him practice a few key phrases in English, offering pronunciation tips and suggesting more impactful word choices for his presentation. As they talked, other customers began to engage. The elderly woman approached and shared her own stories of travel and language barriers. The young couple offered encouragement, and soon the entire cafe felt like a supportive community gathered around Michael. After nearly an hour of conversation, coaching, and connection, Michael stood to leave. His posture was straight, his eyes clear and determined. The exhausted, nervous man who had entered had transformed into someone ready to face his challenge. "Sarah," he said, returning to English but with newfound confidence, "I cannot thank you enough. You have given me much more than coffee today." Sarah smiled warmly. "That's what we're here for. Good luck with your presentation, Michael. I know you'll do wonderfully." Michael gathered his laptop and headed toward the door, then paused and turned back. "Sarah, may I ask, why do you speak so many languages? It is not common for American cafe workers." Sarah laughed softly. "I love connecting with people. Languages are bridges, you know. They help us understand each other, help each other. My grandmother always said that when you speak someone's language, you speak to their heart." Michael nodded thoughtfully, clearly moved by her answer. "That is beautiful wisdom. Perhaps we will meet again." After he left, Sarah continued her day, serving other customers and maintaining the cafe's warm atmosphere. She didn't think much more about Michael, assuming he was just another traveler she had helped along the way. 3 weeks later, Sarah was working the morning shift when an impeccably dressed woman entered the cafe. She approached the counter with purpose and asked to speak with Sarah privately. "My name is Christina Weber," she said, handing Sarah an elegant business card. "I represent Weber Industries. 3 weeks ago, you helped our CEO, Michael Weber, before his presentation to American investors." Sarah's eyes widened in recognition, but Christina continued before she could respond. "That presentation was successful beyond our expectations. Michael has told us that your kindness and support were instrumental in his success. He was so moved by your help that he has been thinking about it ever since." Sarah felt her cheeks warm with embarrassment. "I just made him a coffee and talked with him. Anyone would have done the same." Christina smiled knowingly. "Not anyone, Sarah. What you did, speaking to him in his native language, understanding his fears, giving him confidence, that changed everything for him. And now, he would like to change something for you." She placed a folder on the counter. "Weber Industries is expanding our American operations. We need someone who understands people, who can communicate across cultures, who has the heart to see what others need. Michael would like to offer you a position as our Director of Cultural Relations and Communications." Sarah stared at the folder, unable to process what she was hearing. "The salary is quite generous," Christina continued gently, "but more importantly, you would be traveling the world, helping our company connect with people from different cultures. Using your gift for languages to build bridges, just as you did for Michael." Sarah opened the folder with trembling hands. The offer was beyond anything she had ever dreamed of, not just the financial security, but the opportunity to do what she loved on a global scale. "Michael wanted me to tell you," Christina added, "that you taught him something important that day. You showed him that success isn't just about business deals or presentations. It's about human connection. It's about taking the time to truly understand and help another person." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she realized how one simple act of kindness, just being present and caring enough to speak someone's language, had completely changed her life. 6 months later, Sarah found herself in a cafe in Tokyo, helping a nervous young entrepreneur prepare for his first international business meeting. She spoke to him in Japanese, offered encouragement, and shared the wisdom her grandmother had taught her about languages being bridges to the heart. As she watched the young man's confidence grow, Sarah remembered that morning in Seattle when she had simply wanted to help a tired stranger order coffee. She had learned that kindness has its own language, one that transcends borders and changes lives in ways we never expect. The circle of connection continued, one conversation at a time, one heart at a time.